My name is Megan Edwards of Focus Communications, and today we're getting the latest updates from Cartier Silver, which trades on the Canadian Stock Exchange under the symbol CFE. Joining me again this morning is Cartier CEO, Tom Larsen. Tom, we appreciate you coming on the show today.
Great. Thank you very much for having me.
So before we jump into your latest news, could you walk us through the slides and your properties in Bolivia?
Yeah, so for your listeners that aren't overly acquainted with Cartier Silver, basically, again, it's a junior resource Bolivian explorer, sort of following in the footsteps of our major company, Aurora Resources, that I'm sure you've heard of, that we've been involved with in Bolivia on the project Isca. These are Cartier Silver has been able to pick up some properties about 15-20 kilometers south on the Tin Belt, just south of the Isca project. So, basically the company, before I get into the slide deck, the company currently, its main focus is the two properties that encompass what we call the Chorillos silver project, the Felicidad property, and also the Gonalbert property. These were acquired, at least optioned, last year. The company's strong balance sheet, over $2 million in cash. We've got over $8 million in share value with the company's 2.3 million shares of Aurora Resources. So no debt. So we're in pretty good shape to really go after these targets. So again, as you mentioned, we're on the CSE. We have basically a market cap of around, I think it's around 17, 18 million, but I'll as we go through this, I'll revisit that number. So why don't I just move along here? Forward-looking statements, which is a necessity for all, from a risk-averse standpoint. So Cartier, again, the Chorillos silver properties in the southern basic district of Potosi in southern Bolivia. That's where these are located. Again, the ownership that I mentioned, the Aurora Resources, which is trading at around $350, $370 a share. We have some legacy projects before getting involved in these two option properties in Bolivia. The Gagnon holdings, which are, we own 55% of those. That was our 43-101 qualifying property that allowed us to go public back in 2013. These are iron ore properties that we did do a 43-101 report on that actually are quite, in this day and age, they're more sort of magnetite, coarse grain material, about 150 kilometers from Tidewater at the St. Lawrence. And we've outlined, well over 500 million tons in pit, with a further 500 million tons that we believe is an extension of that pit, which is basically via a gravity survey that we completed. Our partner is Champion Iron, which was a company that I first founded back in 2006. They own 45%. They're a $4 or $5 billion operator now in the Quebec Trough. So this project, even though it's not our focus, we've had it for some time, and I look forward to potentially monetizing this asset at some point. I believe in the not too distant future. The good thing about this particular project, you're seeing a lot of this new sort of green steel movement, with a lot of beneficiation via DRI, which is more interested in the magnetite portion of the granular of the ore itself. And this could go a long way. I mean, you shy away from fossil fuel in this particular type of technology, more sort of from the standpoint of energy, electricity, that in this world, in this part of the world, hydroelectricity is a big number. So there could be some sort of renewed interest in regard to this very, very significant asset. But this is not what Cartier Silver is about, but I'd just like to tell your audience that's sitting in inventory at this stage. We also have a gold property that we spent some time on in eastern Newfoundland, fairly active area on the Avalon Peninsula. We own 100% of that, 92.3 square kilometers, which is an epithermal low sulfidation type system. Both these properties cost us almost nothing, to hold, maybe under $50,000 a year to carry. And again, that we would like to sort of monetize that project down the road. So let's get into the guts of what Cartier Silver's focus is all about here. This is to do with, again, Bolivia. We are very, very pleased working in Bolivia, having spent over 2.5, 3 years now with the, through Dr. Osvaldo Arce, who is the fellow that really came up with some opportunities for us, including the two here for Cartier Silver, Felicidad and the Gonalbert. Again, you take a look at the slide, the background, you're looking north up to Choroque. That is one of the largest tin deposits in Bolivia on the tin belt that runs, again, 1,000 kilometers from the Bolivian Argentinian border north to northwest up to southeastern Peru, where the San Rafael mine, owned by Minsur, produces close to 8% of the world production in tin, which is roughly 300,000 tons of tin worldwide produced. So a very tight market. Isca is sort of on that tin belt that you see, and that's the Eloro project. And then in the forefront here, you see the Felicidad. That is one of the two properties that Cartier Silver is involved in. It's 20 kilometers south of Isca, road accessible, 35 to 50-minute drive from the town, which is about 20,000, 25,000 people, up to Pisa, which is south of these properties. But you see also just the tin belt and how it's sort of the location of where we are in relation to other, world-class mining operations like San Cristobal, San Vicente, and again, the ever-famous Cerro Rico, meaning rich hill in Spanish, in Potosi, over 2.5 billion ounces of silver produced, along with 0.2% tin, not really produced because it was never a bulk tonnage type operation. Next here. So this is, again, the property. We call it the Chorillos project, which encompasses both Felicidad and Gonalbert. But we also picked up more ground to sort of connect the two on the western flank, which I'll show you shortly. The deal is very similar to what we did with in Eloro Resources case with a private owner, a property Isca with Eloro that had never been drilled. These another very wealthy, wealthy family, Bolivian standards, a mining family, well known in the district, and it was similar to, it's like an option type contract whereby we have to pay the vendors, the Segovia family. It's a private ownership, $4.5 million US over a 5-year period. The payments are small up front, like 6 months. Within 6 months, next month we'll be paying $80,000 US, and it balloons in the last 4 or 5 years, but in total $4.5 million US. No royalties, no set annual exploration expenditures, and again, never been drilled, which I love, similar to what we saw at Isca. And here's the property, the added properties that we picked up, because these are, the Felicidad and Gonalbert are relatively small properties on surface. Like Felicidad's only a square kilometer. Gonalbert's only 2.5 square kilometers. But it's what's underneath these things. So we decided to move forward. You see CSB 13, CSB 1 on that western flank, sort of almost connecting the two properties. So we've got a fairly good land package there at this stage. Again, exactly the same sort of mineralization time period of rock type as what you see in the tin belt, what you saw and see currently at Isca. You're dealing with the old Ordovician basement rocks that go back to the sediments that go back to 250 million years ago, sort of old seabed type material. And then you had all that volcanism that took place 12 million years ago, roughly, the Miocene period, that brought up a lot of different mineralization through the volcanism in the form of breccia pipes or dacitic domes, a lot of different sort of volcanic structures that carried a lot of the minerals up. Exact same type of setup as what we've been accustomed to over at Isca. And
today
again,
we're getting an update from the Gonalbert property where Cartier has recently outlined an epithermal silver polymetallic target. Could you walk us through the release and its significance in the search for another major deposit at the Potosi district?
Yeah, so what we did was we decided to focus in on the Gonalbert project, mainly because of there's been, a small artisanal production rate by, 20 tons a day running through the Segovia family have been mining. They've been getting head grades of around 180, 200 grams silver. But, this is artisanal mining. They have a subvertical shaft down about 100 meters vertical depth. And they've been mining and doing quite well. So obviously that was an area that Dr. Osvaldo Arce, who's been watching this for years, decided let's take a look at that area. And so we started some IP chargeability studies that outlined, as the press release stated, roughly an 800 by, what was the exact amount here? I think it was an 8 by 5 by 4 target, which is basically showing potential sulfidation. And that is sort of the area that once that we got the results from that, and we saw that type of extensive type of target, that's the area that we are now will start drilling. And we will only start with one drill, but that should start up at the end of the month. So we're pretty keen on and just excited, looking forward to the initiation of this drill campaign. But the targeting, all the geological work on surface, the geophysical work again that we just completed has given us some good direction for our first pass drilling.
And as you mentioned, small-scale artisanal mining has pulled out silver head grades of roughly 180 grams per ton. Was that work completed in close proximity to this developing target for the company?
It's actually within that 800 by 500 by 400. I want to make sure I've got that dimension 100. Yeah, it's 800 by 500 by 400 depth. So the vertical shaft goes down about 100 meters. And that's where they started pulling this more sulfidic type material. It's a galena vein type, which is lead with silver byproduct. So they were getting, they do get a good like I think it's like 10, 11% concentrate on lead, but on the concentrate, they're getting about 1,200 grams silver after first pass beneficiation. They're getting like 40%, 50% recoveries. That's how archaic this is. I mean, this is artisanal mining. But it's interesting that they're coming in with that type of head grade, and it's down near that 100-meter depth area. And that tells us that that's where the sulfidation really takes off. There was sulfidation all the way to surface, but again, there was so much glaciation, oxidation that took place. It just took out a lot of the minerals, the mineralization that once upon a time was there, that you saw at Cerro Rico, where they didn't have that type of intense glaciation and weathering effect. So we believe that we're zeroing in a bit. We're looking forward to the drilling.
And this is starting to look like another significant polymetallic target for your team. What are the next steps in exploration in preparation for your first phase of drilling?
Well, look at we're not getting overly aggressive in this market. First of all, we've been fighting uphill since February of 2022, and most of the resource companies out there, the good ones have hung in there, but nothing's really taken off in the last year and a half that I know of. Maybe a few names briefly. So you've got to be a little careful. We believe that the commodity space is inevitably going to move higher at some point. Can't predict when. And through that, we want to slowly sort of come in with results. We're not going to come in with 3 or 4 drills. We're going to come in slowly. We think that the stock, the share cap down here at 16, 17 million, 40, 45 cents. I like to keep my share cap, especially the outstanding float, tight. And so we're hoping we can start getting enough results to show potential volume and grade to then move to the next phase. And the next phase will be, this first phase will probably be around 3,000 meters. And your all-in cost, and that's the great thing about Bolivia, it's so cheap all in. It's around $250, $260 US dollars a meter, which is, comparatively speaking, one of the lowest. You're in one of the lowest quartile cost drilling per meter. So we'll move forward on the 3,000 meters. We can afford to do that, and we'll see where it goes. I'm expecting to see pretty good things, and we'll get more aggressive over the next 3 to 6 months.
And before we let you go, what else would you like to leave with our listeners regarding your 2 properties and exploration in Bolivia?
I just think Bolivia, again, is completely unexplored. Like in southern Bolivia, this area. And, it's obvious why now, because of zero mineralization, usually on surface, because of all the weathering, because of the glaciation in this particular area, this region, which is for us great because you're not dealing with communities, you're not dealing with Comobol, the state-run mining arm. So this is one of the beauties that we have, because we'll end up with 100% of this. It's just, it's a blank slate that, from the standpoint of no prior modern exploration type drilling, and we're just very, very, we're just fortunate that we have a fellow like Dr. Osvaldo Arce who finds these types of opportunities and knows the boxes to check when you're dealing in this part of the world, especially in southern Bolivia. So that's sort of it from my standpoint at this stage.
Well, thank you so much for your time again today, Tom, and we look forward to hearing more from Cartier and your progress in Bolivia.
Thanks a lot for having me. Take care.